In this JavaScript tutorial, we'll be looking at the JavaScript alert boxes. Now, those are those little pop-ups that you might find on many websites, and they will display a certain message, and once you click the OK button, they will disappear. So we're going to build on our previous tutorial in this series on JavaScript, where we had a look at the switch statement that had a look at this the simple calculator, which can do a few arithmetic operations for you. And we're going to add an alert box that will check whether the input that you have provided is defined first and foremost, and then to check whether it is in fact a number and not a string. So let's go to our code and have a look. Okay, so in the last tutorial, we were at the point where we created the switch statement, and the switch statement then has different cases where it checks that the operator variable is equal to these 4 different strings, namely addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now, one issue that we do have with our calculator at the moment is that you can still make it perform an operation on the calculator itself, even if the values that you provided for the variables x and y are not numbers. Now, obviously, a calculator doesn't work with letters. You need to provide numbers to be able to perform a sum on those numbers, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an if statement. We're going to do this at the end of the switch, and this if statement will check whether the answer that it's providing is in fact a number. And then we'll check and make sure that that the variable is in fact defined. Because remember, at the beginning of this specific calculator course, we had a look at defining or declaring the ANS variable. Now that basically creates a variable container, but it has got no values assigned to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that before we output the answer from this calculator, that it actually checks, is this variable in fact defined, has a number been assigned to it, and or has a value been assigned to it, and then to check if that value is in fact a number. If it is not, then it will bring up a pop-up, what we call a JavaScript alert box, which will say that excuse me, that we have entered an illegal choice, and that operation then of course cannot continue. So let's do that. Alright, so we're going to do an if statement. So we'll say if the ANS variable if the ANS variable is defined, then we would like it to do something, and then else we'd like it to do something else. Alright, so that's in essence what our if statement does for us, of course. Alright, so if the ANS variable is undefined, we would like it to tell us that or in other words, we don't want it to output the answer onto the screen, because of course there won't be an answer. So how we do an alert box is very simple. We'll type the word alert, followed by opening and closing parentheses, and then inside that we can then specify what message. So let's say you have entered an illegal choice. All right, and then of course we want to check that the variable is defined first and foremost. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. All right, so we'll check if the variable is assigned. Is it defined first and foremost, if a value has been assigned to it. And then we're going to use another logical operator, which is the OR operator. So it'll check if ANS is undefined, or then we'll use the is NaN function. Now NaN stands for not a number. So if it is not a number, this is a function built into JavaScript that we can use to check whether this is a number or not. So it will check, is answer undefined, or is it not a number? In that case, it must bring up the JavaScript alert box that says you have entered an illegal choice. Otherwise, it must output the answer for us as usual. So let's save. We'll go to our browser, hit refresh. Now if we say 1 plus 1 and we say calculate, it gives us the answer as we would want it to. If we then don't add any values, then of course the variable ANS, which outputs the answer for us, should remain undefined. So we would expect the pop-up box to appear. So there we go, that works. It says you have entered an illegal choice. It doesn't perform the operation. We then click OK to carry on. Then to make sure that this is a number, let's just type in some random characters. If we then click calculate, we get the same situation. So that's how JavaScript alert boxes work.